like to gamble, I tell ya I'm your man. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me.
Hey everyone, it's Augie for CardRunners.com, and I am back. I've been gone for a week, but I'm here again, and I'm bringing you part 2 of my PokerStars $20 1 rebuy 1 add-on tournament. Before we get to the action, I did promise you guys some more personal information. You know, if I was going to let some guy tell me about poker, I'd probably want to know something about him too. I am only 24, but I've definitely been playing longer than the average net boy. I've been playing for like 8 years. I was definitely into poker when I was like 16, but I didn't really start playing online until I turned 18. In fact, I remember on my 18th birthday was the day I made my first deposit. And so I've definitely been around for a while. I've been playing tournaments the whole time, but I've only really considered myself a good tournament player for a couple of years. Like 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to live with Sean Deeb for the summer for the World Series of Poker, and he really taught me a lot while he was living with me. Gave me a ton of free coaching. You know, I owe all of my tournament skills to him. I am in college, even though I'm 24. That might sound a little weird to you. Yes, I did go to college straight out of high school. I ended up dropping out for a couple of years during my junior year at my first school. I just wasn't happy with my major. I wasn't really wanting to get a job. I was a communications major, and I didn't really see myself enjoying any kind of job that I would have gotten. And so I decided to just drop out and play poker for a while and go to community college. And so I fell behind a little bit, but you know, I'm catching back up. I did promise my mom I would graduate, so can't let mama down. Alright, let's get down to the action. With 6-9 suited here from the small blind, I decided to limp rather than raise. A lot of people definitely don't play like this. A lot of good players don't play like this from the blinds. But it's something I do quite a lot. I like to limp with bad hands and good hands, because it kind of fits into my overall game plan of playing small pots. By limping pre-flop and min-betting the flop, we save one big blind in the steal situation rather than just making it 3 times the big blind pre-flop. There are definitely some good arguments against it. Most of the time, people from the big blind don't play back enough, and so it's going to be more profitable to just raise pre-flop. But if they do play back enough, if they play back the appropriate amount of time, then it's going to be, might be a better situation to limp. But I think we should discuss that on the forum, because I could probably talk for an hour about blind play, and so we wouldn't get to play any other hands. So I guess we should just move on. When he calls the flop min bet and we turn a flush draw, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting situation. I decided to bet the turn because I thought that I could fold out possibly a better 9. But looking back on it, I really don't like my bet that much. I don't really think he would end up folding a 10 or a 9. And if I check, I'm not going to get raised off of, you know, my flush draw, which obviously I want to see the river. So I think check calling might be better here on the turn. Lucky enough to river trips in case he did have a 10. Obviously gonna value bet the river. Check raising the river is definitely not an option. He's just gonna check back all of his missed draws probably. And wow, he had a 9, which proves that student is a pretty good player. He realized that I'm not gonna pay him off with worse than like bad trips there, and so he just called the river in case I had better. So Very nicely played by Student. It's definitely just a standard call on the river, but a lot of people would jam there. And actually, I would have been in a really tough spot if he had jammed on the river. Yeah, I really honestly don't know what I would have done. I can say now that I would have called. I knew I had the best hand, but I really don't know if I would have called had he jammed the river. I mean, probably. I guess I would have. I would have cursed and then called. Ace Jack is an obvious open. One thing to note is the stack sizes that we have right now. Well, I'll come back to that in a sec. When it comes Ace 8, 9, I'm c-betting here with top pair because I would be c-betting with air. And so, checking would be okay, but that's my reason for betting this time. Checking as like a slow play or a trap would be okay. I thought maybe I could get some action. It's kind of an action flop. There's some Broadway that has the gut shot. AS Top is a loose player. He might have had a 9 or an 8. So I like the bet. Anyway, back to what I was saying about the stack sizes. We were lucky enough to double up in a really huge pot right before the video started. And look at our chip position on the table. Okay, we have position on the one big stack. And then everybody else is really short. Everybody else has about 20 big blinds. Cheeses has a little more. Student has a little more. But everybody's super short. Everybody has a re-steal stack. In this type of situation, I am playing extremely tight. I know I said last video that I was going to loosen up and kind of use my tight image to my advantage. But with these stack sizes, there's really no point in doing that. First place is like 8 grand, and 7th place is probably 1,000 or less. And considering the pay jumps, it's a much smarter idea to just sit on the gigantic chip lead we have and watch these 20 big blind stacks bust out, and then get a little more aggressive. We are definitely going to try to play back at read on you and Cheeses if they try to steal on me. Maybe not now with Cheeses' stack, but when Cheeses, if he were to double up or something, I'm definitely going to be 3-betting him. But I'm not going to be opening light very much because these 20 big blind stacks are just in perfect shape to jam on me with a really wide range. They're going to know I'm opening a lot of pots, and so they're not going to be afraid to shove on me. So it's probably really smart in this situation with these stack sizes to just play really tight with your opens and then kind of try to abuse read on you and then just play pretty standard other than that. But keep in mind, I only say that because I have Tulkas and Student on my left. If you have really tight or just really bad players on your left, feel free to open on them when they have 20 big blind stacks. They're not going to play back nearly enough. But when you have good players on your left, they are going to play back enough if they notice that you're opening light. And so I think it's just smarter to kind of play tight and trap those guys for their whole stack. You're not giving up anything. Look at our chip position. We have like a third of the chips in play with 7 players left. We're not giving up too much by letting them have their blinds every once in a while. We can afford to play a few orbits, but catching them for 20 or 30 big blinds would be a lot nicer. Don't see myself opening Ace-5 here. Student Tulkas are both very capable of jamming on me really wide. I don't quite know about Zam, but I'm just going to assume with his stack size that he's going to re-steal on me pretty wide for now. I only have 46 hands on him, so I don't know too much about him. Yeah, just going to fold against read on you. Just not going to put my lead at risk. One thing that I just noticed is that Zam's 3-bet percentage is 18, which is like almost twice as high as anybody else at the table. So I can pretty much safely assume for now that he's going to be willing to 3-bet me light as well as Tulkas and Student. I do like read on you playing loose in this spot with these stack situations. He has a lot more to gain from stealing the blinds than we do. He only has like 40 big blinds when we have a lot more. We have like 80. And so, we're just not really getting much out of a blind steal, but he's got a pretty good opportunity to accumulate here. He's got Cheeses on his right, who's been pretty aggressive, and AS Top as well, so he can 3-bet those guys. He should definitely be attacking my blind. I'm going to be playing fairly tight, as I said. I'm not going to want to risk my chip lead very much. So he'll probably be able to steal my blind more than a couple times. Feels kind of weird to say that. I feel like I'm giving aid and comfort to the enemy. But it's honest advice. I think that Read On You would benefit from stealing my blind at this point. I'm just going to be knitting it up until some of these guys bust out and I move up the pay scale. AS Top could be very light here. I think Cheeses recognizes that. Cheeses could be jamming very light here also. It's not totally unreasonable to think Cheeses might jam any 2 cards. I've certainly jammed some really crappy hands before, if the situation is right. So, well played. And the same holds for this situation right here. Jesus can be raising anything. Stealing the blinds right now is really valuable for him. He only has 26, 5, 6 big blinds, it looks like. So he gets a lot more out of a steal than me or Read On You does. I don't really see myself re-stealing here. It wouldn't be totally unreasonable. And I think, this is one of the rare occasions when it's just totally okay to be a total nit and fold your way up the money. Usually that's pretty much the worst advice ever, but when you have such a huge chip lead, there's really nothing else to do. Another boring hand. Nothing to see here. Move along, folks. Oh, actually, we might see Read On You 3-bet here. It's a pretty good spot. Cheeses has been pretty aggressive. And, Read On You is smart. So he's going to apply the pressure. He knows that Cheeses isn't going to want to bust with Zam being so short. Tolka still has a workable stack, but Zam's going to be gone pretty soon. I'm definitely not saying that Cheeses is going to make some crazy type fold here because of the 7th to 6th pay jump. I doubt it's really that much, but it's just something to think about. Nice hand by Cheeses. I think it's okay to jam Ace Jack there. I think it's alright to assume that Read On You is pretty light in that spot. Read On You did have the hand, Ace Jack. I think it's good enough to put someone with 20 big blinds all in. I like his play too. It's pretty much a standard hand from both people. Wouldn't even be surprised to see Cheeses show up there with like an Ace 10, actually. Read On You continuing with the aggression. It's a pretty smart player. When Tolka's 3-bets here, you got to assume that he has a really strong hand. He had like a 20 big blind stack, and that's like a normal all-in re-steal stack. Most of the time if someone's re-stealing, they're just going to jam 20 big blinds. And so when he makes a smaller raise like that, you got to think that he's trying to induce action. But I think it turns out that he folds here, which really confuses me. I don't know if he had air here or something weird like Ace-Jack. If he had Ace-Jack, that would definitely be a mistake, and he needs to call the all-in. Read On You has like small pairs in his range. The Ace-Jack can definitely justify calling with the pot odds the tremendous pot odds that he's getting laid. Or the other option is that he had air there, which I really don't like a small 3-bet with air. I think that he should either jam or fold. because going from 20 big blinds to 15 is really bad for your fold equity. You're not going to get away with as many re-steals with 15 big blinds as you will with 20. So if he had air there, I think that he probably should have just folded. Or if he had some kind of suited connector or something decent, he probably just should have jammed. That was a really weird play. And, I think that Tolgas is a pretty good player, so I'm pretty confused by this hand overall, if you can't tell. I hope it's obvious to you at this point that I'm not considering raising 2-3 offsuit under the gun. A decent steal situation for Student. He does have a raise folding stack. 20 big blinds, or he had like 22. And 22 is okay to raise and fold to a shove. You still have plenty of fold equity left with 20 big blinds. And he looks a little stronger there from under the gun +1, so I like the steal spot. Read on you in that spot probably isn't jamming on him very light at all. Another boring fold. Pretty much only playing good hands in that spot. Toka's with a small raise here. Wonder if he's raise folding again. I highly doubt it. He definitely had the hand there. If he had something big, I would have liked to see him open shove, actually. I think it was pretty obvious to everyone that he was really strong there. Well, I may not be getting any hands, but this is definitely an action table. Getting some good pots going, and I like it. That means we'll be moving on with things soon, and some of these guys will be busting out. Then we can play some more hands. I'm definitely not going to be sitting back when we're four-handed and even in chips. Definitely not going to let a lot of these hands go. But as I keep repeating, we're just in too good of shape with our stack to want to play any hands, really. It's kind of a weird spot. I don't really like AS Top's call here, flat call here with any hand, really, with 20 big blinds against under the gun raise. He should probably be folding everything and just jamming the value hands. If we were a little bit shorter, I would be playing more loose. If we had like 1.2 million, I would definitely be playing more hands. I'd be 3-betting read on you a lot more and cheeses a lot more, but not with 80. I definitely see myself getting a lot more aggressive though at the next blind level, because the shorties will have between 10 and 15 big blinds. And with so many people that short, they're going to have to play pretty conservative in order not to bust out before these extremely short guys do. Yes, Top with the steal could be very loose, and apparently he was. Jesus is continuing to impress me. I remember at the beginning of the last video, I really didn't give him much credit, but I think he's been playing really well. I think him and Read on You are the best players at the table besides me. And Student is very good as well as Tulkas. So I'm kind of in actually I'm in a pretty good spot because I have position on the big stacks. But generally you don't like to be sandwiched in between a bunch of good players. And obviously this situation doesn't need too much explanation. This is pretty much just a gift from God. It doesn't matter if AS Top is super tight here because we have pocket kings. And we're beating a tight range. So really the only decision here is whether to just call the shove or to shove ourselves. But really it doesn't matter. Tulkas is smart enough to know that we have something really big here. And somehow we just get the best flops this tournament. We're running so good on flops. We keep flopping the nut flush draw, and our opponents are always drawing super thin. It's really nice when that happens, you know? You don't have to do anything. You just play super tight, and then people just give you 20 big blinds. Uh, Limping here for the same reasons that I talked about in the 6-9 suited hand at the beginning of the video. It's a pretty decent flop for c-betting. I do not. Sometimes I don't c-bet every single flop, especially against a good player, but Queen 8-7 is dry enough to c-bet. But once he does call, I don't really see myself putting any more money in. The Jack is a pretty scary card. So that completes a lot of his hands, and the pot is just not big enough for me to care, really. If we were in a more precarious stack situation, I might consider betting the Jack, because it is a scary card, so while it's scary to us, it's scary to him too. And but we're in good shape. We don't have to worry about it. Just give him the pot and move on. He's just so short that I would hate to give him another like 4 big blinds. That would just be too much of a boost to his stack. Pocket fives is gonna be an automatic raise call. All these guys are really short. Oh, actually, I open shove, which I like even more. When I raise call, I'm gonna get in flips with a lot of overcards. But when I open shove, I can fold out some overcards that might shove on me. So it works out a little bit better for us in the long run. I don't really think we're gonna induce anybody to re-steal on us really light with fives. They have to have a 3, 4, or 2 in their hand. And people don't like to shove with 3s, 4s, and 2s in their hand. The blinds have gone up, which we do like to see. In this, with these stack sizes, I like the blinds going up because I'm pretty much going to be playing just as tight against Zam and Tolkas. Actually, I can play a little bit looser correctly because they're so much shorter. And it gives me a little bit more of an incentive to start to play back at read on you and cheeses. Pots are going to be a little bigger now. Winning a 200k pot is, you know, gonna be a little bit nicer considering the amount of chips in play. Man, Cheeses is just tearing it up out there. Actually, Cheeses really shouldn't be light here. When Student, as I said before, with the less than 20 big blind stack, he should have a tighter range than normal, but it turns out he was light there, which kind of surprises me. I think that he probably should have just conserved his stack and decided to fold. Ace-Jack here is kind of a weird spot. My first instinct was to jam, as you'll see here. But I'm glad I reconsidered that, because I really don't think that Student could be light here at all. He just raised folded with like 17 BB, so if he's raising again and not shoving, I think he has to have a really strong hand. I don't see him raise folding at all there. And if he had something weaker, he would probably open shove. So that seems pretty tight, but I think it's actually a good fold. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, actually. Maybe we can talk about that hand on the forum. I don't even think Ace-10 is really in his range. I don't know. Do you? With A2 suited here, I decided to jam on him. He only has 15 big blinds left. And so I'm not considering raise folding, and suited is pretty much good enough to steal his blind with, because with 15 big blinds, he has to play pretty tight. He might call me with like King 10 or something, but it's just not that often that he actually picks up those hands. And we're suited, so we could always win the pot. Ace-9 here, I might have made kind of a mistake. I think that raise calling here is better than open shoving on student. I think that we should have just min raised and then called if he had gone all in. We might fold out some worse hands that would shove on us by going all in. I guess it's possible that we folded out some small pocket pairs like 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s maybe, but I don't know. Yeah, he should fold those hands, but I don't know if that makes it better to open shove rather than raise call. So that might have been a mistake there with ace-9. Either way, it's a pretty small mistake because I'm definitely not considering folding ace-9 on the button with 15 big blind effective stacks. Ace-9 is just far too good. Queen-Jack suited is a pretty decent open. These guys to my left are pretty short, but I've been playing so tight that they should give me a lot of respect. And Queen-Jack suited just plays so well against the blinds here when I'm in position. I think it wouldn't be crazy to open fold this, honestly, with the short stacks behind, but I decided to just gamble it up a little bit and raise. I'm going to c-bet here when I do flop the gut shot. I'd probably c-bet air, and so when I have the gut shot to go with it, makes it even easier. Read unused range should be fairly wide. He's probably not calling tons of junk there, but there's a lot of hands in his range that totally miss ace 10x. I'm pretty sure I decided to 3-bet here with 7-2. I just think this is a really good spot. Cheeses has been raising a ton. Read unused been raising a ton, and I've just been folding every time. And so it's about time I actually 3-bet. It makes it even better with Tulkas and Zam being so short. Cheeses just cannot play back at me without waiting for them to bust out. There's just that's where knowing ICM really comes in handy. You know, I'm definitely not an expert on it, but I know in that situation that Cheeses is just not gonna 4-bet me there light ever. There's just too much to lose by not waiting for Tulkas and Zam to go out. So this is a spot where I need to actually really ramp up the aggression and just try to steal every pot I can until those guys are out. Unfortunately, one of them busts right after I say that. It would have been nice to just have him hanging around with 7 big blinds for like 10 orbits. I could just steal a mountain of chips. Maybe get them all down to 10 big blinds before either one of them busted out. Obviously that's facetious, but it's definitely smart to attack the big stacks when there's a lot of shorties. Yeah, we've been pretty aggro, so gonna lay off for a little bit and not play the 3-4 offsuit. But I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible 3-bet spot. With Tulkas so short, read on you just can't do anything. He's handcuffed. It would be really bad for him to go broke, really, with student and Tulkas so short. He would be giving away so much equity. Obviously, sometimes there are going to be cooler situations, but he really shouldn't be going broke too light. And it looks like we're going to lose both of our shorties, which is bad for us, but at least we'll probably have some more exciting hands. When read on you limps here, I see that as extremely weak. I know I said that I limp strong hands and weak hands, but he's been raising so much that if he had a big hand here, I would expect him to raise 100% of the time. So, with any 2 cards, King 7 is obvious, but I think I would 3x it there with any 2 cards and win a lot of the time. It's just so weak when a really aggro player limps like that. It's usually a dead giveaway of a weak hand. Student is just so short that I decided to pass on the 10-3. I don't really feel like putting them all in. That's pretty much what I would have to do. Maybe if it were suited, but I mean it's not really crazy to play tight in that spot. I do need to be careful about doubling up student. I have a pretty good opportunity to abuse cheeses and read on you with student being this short, so it's to my benefit to keep him in the tournament at this point. So rather not double him up. King Jack is going to be an obvious open. It's just a good hand. It's a pretty hand. Look at it. It's beautiful. Not even the tightest player would fold King Jack in this spot, I'm afraid. And I think I'm raise folding to pretty much everyone. If student would jam there, no, I would call student shove, but I'm definitely folding to cheeses and folding to read on you if you were to 3-bet me. But because of how well it plays when I'm flat called, it's still a pretty obvious open. A lot of the time, read on you is going to be flatting us from the blinds, I feel, when we're this deep. He's not the type of player that's afraid to play with anyone, really. He'll play with you post-flop. With aces here, I'm pretty sure I decide to jam. You know, I'm not entirely happy with this, but I think it's the best play because this is what I would be doing with weaker hands if I were re-stealing with like Jack 10 suited or some kind of small pair or something. I would definitely jam, and so I jam with the aces. Hopefully he won't think I'm just super strong. Hopefully he'll see it as maybe a light re-steal. But unlucky that we didn't get any action. And the famous Gobble Boy has made an appearance on the rail. I don't think he knew I was recording when he was watching me playing this, so hopefully he won't be too embarrassed. Hopefully I won't say anything embarrassing in the chat. Ace-9 suited here is a really strong hand. If cheeses opens, I'm definitely jamming on him for value. It's Ace-9 suited is just well ahead of his opening range. I don't know what I would have done if read on you would open. I probably would have just flatted from the big blind in position and played on the flop. Jesus does call, which I kind of expected him to. I don't see good players raise folding with less than 20 big blinds too often. And I could have some worse hands in my range there for sure. A lot of Broadway cards and stuff. And so he kind of has to call with the ace-4 four-handed. Pocket aces here, I am pretty sure I limp. I've been limping the 9-6, the 4-3, and so, you know, you have to limp aces if you're going to limp those hands as well. A lot of the time the big blind will try to play back at you, and I think he jams on us in this hand. He does get there on us, but it's okay. We still have tons of chips. We're in great shape. I'm not worried about it. You can't let stuff like that get you down. You know, we played the hand perfectly. We got it in with aces against King 10 suited. You just can't get down on yourself when stuff like that happens. Ace 10, obviously opening there. Probably calling the shove if student were to shove on me. Would be kind of a tough spot if read on you were to 3-bet us when with the ace 10. I might have jammed as a 4-bet. Just assuming I had the best hand. 3-handed, the ranges are just so much wider. And you just have to play a lot more aggressively with your good hands. Or your medium strength hands, pardon me. I actually think I made kind of a mistake in this hand. Just coming off of the aces hand where I limp, I don't know that he's really going to fall for it again. Um, with him thinking that I have a big hand anyway. I think that if I raise there, I can represent a big hand a lot easier. Because if I have aces again, he's not going to think that I'm going to limp. I decided to just give up when it comes a 3 on the turn after he calls the flop. The 3 is such a blank that he's definitely not folding any pairs, I don't think, that he called with on the flop. So, smart place to just give up. 7s, obvious open on the button. I think, yeah, read on you does 3-bet us here, and even 50 big blinds deep, this is kind of a yucky spot. But 3-handed, I think we just have to go with it and 4-bet. I decide to jam, but making a smaller 4-bet I think is would have been maybe smarter, and then calling the shove. Jamming looks kind of weak when you're 50 big blinds deep. I think he would expect me to make a smaller raise with a really strong hand. So I kind of regret jamming here. But I do think that 7s are pretty well ahead of his 3-betting range. He has to be 3-betting light here a lot of the time. Our God mode flops continue. Why wouldn't they? We don't have to sweat a turn or a river. You know, we just scoop 100 BB pots. That's all we do. We don't sweat turn cards. Definitely running amazingly at this final table. I'll be the first one to admit that. Sometimes that's just how tournaments work. Sometimes you end up playing really tight and nitty, and all the chips just kind of get gifted to you. We didn't really have to work hard for them in this tournament, but we were definitely ready to work hard for them. We just haven't had to. Here's a look at the payouts. Interestingly, third to second is pretty much the same as the jump from second to first, which I do like. I like the flat payout structures. I think they're better for the fields in general. They increase everyone's bottom line except for the very best players. So I definitely support flat payouts. When it comes Queen 2-4, I definitely like a c-bet here with a gut shot and an overcard. You know, Queen 2-4 is a really tough flop to hit. Ranges are so much wider though in heads up, so it's definitely possible he has a 2 or a 4. And that's part of the range I give him when he calls the flop here. Why I decide to bet the turn. I think I definitely fold out a 2 or a 4. We still have a 5 or an ace to win, most likely. You know, I think that he probably check shoves a queen on the flop a lot. So I think that's a really good spot for 2-barreling. With 6-5 suited here, I'm not thinking about calling his raise. I'm only going to shove or fold in this spot when we're 25 big blinds deep or whatever he had behind. 25 is definitely not deep enough to speculate with like 6 high out of position. In general, heads up, I'm just looking to play tons of hands from the button and play very tight out of position. That's just a standard heads up strategy. I decided to c-bet here with a second pair. Checking back here would be kind of reasonable, but I was able to induce a raise here. And I say induce because I end up shoving as a 3-bet. I just think that King 4 is... I don't know if it was a timing tell. For some reason, I just felt like this raise was weak. Like he was just bluffing me for some reason. It's possible that he has a worse 4 in his range. Obviously, he could have a 6 in his range. But I don't see overpairs. He would have jammed an overpair pre-flop. So he's basically either raising air, a gut shot, or a 6. And so I think that it's okay to jam king 4 here, and it does turn out pretty well for us. He folds rather quickly. So that's kind of a fun hand, kind of a weird hand, but I just don't think I can give up second pair when he has 20 big blinds behind and I'm so deep. King 2, obvious fold, gonna keep playing tight out of position. I'm not gonna be flat calling him with very many hands at all. I might call the big blind with, I just don't even know. Anything I would consider calling with, I'm just gonna jam when he's 20 big blinds deep. Maybe aces. Aces or kings are about the only hands I'm gonna call with pre-flop. I think my overall strategy is not to pass on anything. I think I just open every single button, which is a pretty standard strategy. It's nothing crazy. Ace King is obviously going to be a jam here. I would consider jamming some weaker hands, like a 10 Jack, a Queen Jack, whatever. So Ace King I have to include in my range. Keep up with my strategy of playing hands from the button. He's really not playing back at me enough. He hasn't jammed on me really at all. He did that one bluff on the flop that didn't work out too well for him. When he limps here, this is kind of the same situation when Read on You limped on me earlier. I just see that as really weak. He's been raising some hands from the button, and so when he limps, I don't see it as a trap. Since we're suited here and about 15 BB deep, it's a pretty standard all-in. Not considering raise folding, so might as well just jam it in and get the most fold equity we can. Queen Jack here is actually kind of a close decision. We've just been beating the crap out of him, so he's gonna try to steal the blinds at least once. And when he jams here, he could have a wide range, but I don't quite think that it's any two cards. I think it's a little bit tighter than that. And so Queen Jack is kind of marginal, but I think it's a fold. You could definitely justify calling with Queen Jack in this spot against a lot of people, but I don't think in this heads-up match it would be a good call. Just keep up the pressure. I'm not raise folding this shallow. I'm not going to let him increase his stack by 20% without even seeing the flop. If I raise and he's 15 BB deep, I pretty much can justify calling with a garbage hand against his entire range. We don't need that much equity to raise call 15 big blinds. We really don't. If you poker stove it, you get pretty decent equity with a random hand against like a not a tight range, but a a medium range, for lack of a better term. And so raise folding is just not an option that shallow. So might as well jam. I think with this ace-7 might have been a small mistake, but it's not really a huge one. I think that raise calling might have been a little smarter than just open shoving. I might fold out a few worse hands when 15 BB deep. I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal, though, to just open shove ace-7. If it's a mistake, it's a small one. Now he's back up to 28 or so. He's got kind of a workable stack, but we're seriously not worried. We have over 110 big blinds. With ace-2 here, I'm raise folding if you were to shove on me. Ace-2 isn't quite strong enough, and the way he's been playing, I don't see him 3-betting that light here. Ace-2 has kind of crabby equity against a re-steal range with 30 big blinds. Ace-9 actually has a ton more equity than Ace-2. It's kind of shocking how much better Ace-9 plays. Well, it's not shocking at all, but it's not really intuitive. You would think that Ace-2 plays almost as well as Ace-9 does, but it actually doesn't. Ace-2 would be a pretty clear fold in that spot. I think we're okay with folding the worst hand in poker. Well, actually, heads up 2-3 would be the worst hand, so sorry about that. Just kind of grinding away at him at this point. 30 big blinds deep. I'm not going to be too aggressive. We can play a few small pots. But I'm definitely not afraid to get 30 big blinds in with a medium strength hand if you were to shove on me. Such as Ace-9. Like I would raise call Ace-9 in this spot. Obviously call Ace-King. And any pair, I would raise call. 2 overs on a gut shot is an obvious c-bet. Even though Queen Jack 6 is kind of easy for him to hit out of the small blind, our equity is just really good with 2 overcards in the gut shot. I think I end up jamming Jack 9 suited here. I've been talking and talking about how I would re-steal in these spots, so I'm glad I finally did it. You know, I'm not all talk. I do actually re-steal every once in a while. 30 big blinds deep, you know. I've just been letting him get away with a lot of steals, so I have to push back a little bit, keep him in line a little bit. And Jack 9 suited is a really nice hand to do that with. Has really nice equity even when they call. I was just thinking back to that Ace-2 hand where I said I was going to raise fold Ace-2. I'm kind of reevaluating that. It just depends on their range. You should poker stove it, put different ranges in there, and see how Ace-2 does against them. Keep on opening. I almost folded the Jack-4, I think. It wouldn't have been that bad. I opened like every button. And against normal people, it's not smart to just open every single button. I like to let a few go every once in a while, just to make them think that I'm not just trying to abuse the crap out of them. So it might have been smart to lay down the Jack-4 there. Hopefully the heads-up part of this tournament isn't boring you guys too much. I'm definitely not a heads-up sit-and-go expert, and there are tons of good heads-up sit-and-go videos on this site, so I don't want to give any bad info out. I'm just going to give you my perspective and do my best. Once again, not going to play a bad hand out of position. It's just too tough to play out of position when you really just don't have to. He's not playing as tight as he should be from the big blind, and so we can exploit that by just playing really tight from the big blind and playing more hands from the button. Automatic c-bet with the open-ender. You know, if we're c-betting air, we have to c-bet an open-ender and just get it all in if he happens to raise us. Even if he does raise us, even if he has a 10 or a 9, our hand still has pretty nice equity. And we just have a ton of fold equity. It's possible we can make him fold a 9. I don't see him folding a 10. But he could also have air, which I think is what he had since he insta-folded. Continue to play tight from the big blind. I've been passing a lot. Wouldn't be surprised if I open this. No, I'd fold again. I've folded a few buttons now, and so I'm probably going to go back to 100% VPIP from the button. Well, not 100% VPIP, 100% pre-flop raise. Pardon me. Finally, we get a good hand. Just been looking at garbage for the last 10 minutes. When it comes to 2-5-4, obvious c-bet, and I'm probably going to get it in if he were to shove on me. 2 overs and a gut shot. Once again, I keep saying that, but it just has a lot of equity if he has a 2-5 or a 4. We're just can easily justify getting it in, because in addition to the hands that we can draw out on, we might just have the best hand if we were to open shove. There's some air in his range, and just a lot of hands that we're beating. When he does make the small raise, though, that looks a lot stronger to me than if he were to check shove. I feel like he's trying to induce here, and my first instinct was actually to shove, but I think that would have been a mistake. We've been playing really aggro since it got heads up, and something was just telling me that he was trying to induce here. But still, even though I'm pretty sure that he's beating me, I still don't want to fold. We're definitely getting the right price to draw an ace, 3, or queen. I'm not really hoping for an ace, even though we catch one, because I think a 3 is a pretty big part of his range, but I definitely think 5, 4, or 2 is an even bigger part, and so I'm definitely not hating the ace. When we tank checks here, I really like that. I automatically assume that he's scared by the ace. My instinct, once again, was to open shove here. Not open shove. My instinct was to shove, and I thought that that might look weaker than making a smaller bet, but I changed my mind and decided to bet like half pot. Actually, I bet like 1/3 pot, just to hope that a 5, 4, or 2 will call us. Open shoving really doesn't accomplish anything there. But this is for value. If he were to shove on us, I would curse and call and pray that he doesn't have a 3. But when he just check calls the turn, I mean, this is a really weird spot. There are definitely 3s in his range, but I feel like there are other hands in his range too. I feel like ace is probably ahead here a good bit of the time, and he has like no money behind. So I put him all in on the river, and he does call, and we win all the chips. That was a really strange final hand. I don't think I've ever ended a tournament like that. It's really weird. I normally don't expect them to call on the river there. I don't know. I guess maybe he was just tilted or something. Maybe he was tired, wanted to go to sleep. He is from Copenhagen, so maybe he was up all night. At any rate, it appears that we are out of video, and so I guess that would be a good spot to end the recording. I do want to take a second to thank you for listening to me today. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate any comments left on the forum, good or bad. Whatever you thought of the video, whether you want to talk about a hand you think I played bad, something you thought I played well, or if you just want to talk strategy in general, I definitely respond to all comments, and I'll be in the multi-table tournament strategy forums. So come chat it up with me, and hopefully you'll be here for my next video. Thanks again for listening. GG!